The convergence of our voices is the song of our beauty. Many voices will speak here, the song woven through diverse notes. Welcome to Crone Chronicles. Today I have two guests for you. They are Zoe Venditozzi and Claire Mitchell, who formed Witches of Scotland to bring justice to the women of Scotland who were accused of witchcraft. And they talk about what they have accomplished, their tartan, and how some of those same factors that led to the witch trials are playing out in the world today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Witches of Scotland. So perhaps the two of you quarrelsome dames, as you like to be known, could introduce yourselves.
So
Hi,
I'm Zoe. Oh, sorry, Claire, you go ahead.
hi, I'm Claire Mitchell from Witches of Scotland, and yeah, I'm a King's Counsel, a lawyer working in Scotland, sometimes working in England. Zoe?
I'm Zoe Venditozzi, and I'm a teacher and a writer, and mostly based in Scotland.
Okay, so Claire is in London speaking to us today, and Zoe is in Scotland. So
I
we're
am, yep.
all over the place. And
Yes.
could you tell me when Witches of Scotland got going and the purpose?
Okay, well, in 2020, about 2 weeks before lockdown, that was when our campaign started on International Women's Day, 8th of March 2020. And the purpose of it was to remember women who were accused of witchcraft in Scotland. I have always had a history, an interest in history, and I've always had an interest in law, obviously my job. So I had come to learn about witchcraft accusations, but I didn't really know a lot about them. And the more I researched, the more amazed I became that it was a piece of Scottish history that was really underreported,
Mhm.
really not well known about at all. And it was a black mark in Scotland's history. So I decided that I wanted to do something about that. And very happily, I met my co-campaigner, Zoe Venditozzi, and we hit it off. And as a result of that, the campaign was formally launched. It had three aims. The aims were, first of all, a pardon for all those that were convicted, an apology for all those that were accused, because many were accused but never made it to trial. They died um or were acquitted on occasion, but their lives would still have been ruined. So that's why there's a difference between a formal pardon, because you can only pardon people who have been convicted, an apology for all those accused, and the third thing was to make what we wanted at the time was a national memorial. And at the time that we started that off, we conceived of it as some kind of physical, either a statue or some kind of installation. That was the idea that we thought of. Things changed as we went along, though.
Mm. And you have achieved two of those goals that you set out?
We have.
Yes.
Well, we on International Women's Day on in 2022, our First Minister of the time, Nicola Sturgeon, gave an apology, which was the first state recognition that there'd been this huge miscarriage of justice. That was fantastic to get that out there so people understood that the government understood that what had happened was wrong and had to be addressed and learned from. And the memorial, as time went on and we realised that a statue, we'd still be quite interested in seeing a statue. But the idea of a statue is problematic in Scotland because where do you put it? You know, does it go, even though Scotland's not a very big place, there were most places in Scotland were affected by the witch trials in one way or another. And of course, Edinburgh is the capital city, and that's where lots of tourists go. But everything always tends to go to what we call the central belt, which is Edinburgh and Glasgow. Whereas
Mhm.
there were lots of other stories out with, and we sort of thought, it's hard to pick a place where it could be. And we had lots of people getting in touch with us and saying, oh, it should be in our village or it should be in our town. And Claire and I reached a point where we're kind of like, well, we're not in charge of statues for Scotland. We approached the government, and the Scottish government said, yes, we support you, but we don't have any money. So, and of course, it's expensive to have a statue. You have to
Yes.
commission it, artists have to be paid fairly, and then it has to be looked after. There has to be an upkeep. So that became a bit of an issue. And then coincidentally, Claire and I attended the opening party at the V&A Design Museum in Dundee. So that's Victoria and Albert's. There's an outpost of the V&A in London that's in Dundee. And we went to a party that was being held there to mark the launch of their tartan exhibition, which was amazing. Like it was so hugely visited and loved. And at the opening party, there are people everywhere dressed in tartan. And Claire in particular looked around and thought, this is something we have to have a think about. And basically, long story short, we commissioned Claire Campbell, who runs a mill in the Highlands of Scotland, to create a memorial tartan for the Witch of Scotland campaign, which is highly symbolic. The colours, the thread count, everything is all to do with different aspects of the witch trials. And that went into production in almost a year from now, but about February, March last year. And since then, it went viral as soon as it was announced. And it's really caught the imagination of people all over the world because it's a simple way to inspire conversation and learning. Because it means if you've got the scarf on, A, other people that recognize the campaign know you know about it. And B, people say, oh, I love your tartan. Where did you get that from? And then you can tell the story. And as a teacher, that's really gratifying to me because the story is spreading everywhere. So
Ah,
that's where
and
we're
there
at.
it is. There's the tartan.
I've
Yeah.
got a visual of it here.
Yeah.
That's actually part of one of my kilts that I have here. Um,
Ah,
and it looks slightly different when it's a scarf. But yeah, that's the tartan pattern.
yes. And on your website, I've seen the two of you in your kilts, which just look fabulous.
Oh, thank
They're
you.
really cool.
Yeah.
It feels very empowering to wear them.
Mm,
It's not something that I would have worn in the past. I think I probably had a kilt as a little girl, but more
yes.
like a pinafore that was a tartan. But I
Yeah.
didn't have our family weren't into that. So it's
Mm,
quite interesting for me to wear it and really feel like you've got the power of all these different women and people that understand the campaign there with you.
yeah. Yeah. I bet that gets quite a bit of notice.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah. And you also have a book, or it's out now, isn't it, your book?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It came out in the UK last May, May 25, and it came out in the States in fall 25. And the paperback comes out this year, later on in the year. So that's been lovely because we've got to meet lots and lots of different fans and followers and lots of new readers and engage with audiences who, you can understand so much more when the story is told to you, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And are you planning to come to North America for a book tour?
Well,
I would
we
love to.
We'd love to. It's a really difficult time just now, so
Yeah.
we're watching what's
Yes.
happening with our friends across with
Yeah.
you, and
Mm,
really feeling very, very sad and disappointed that things have gone this way. If
mm.
there's one thing that it shows us in the book through the witch trials, in which we talk about all the time, it's about picking on vulnerable groups. Never, ever, never works for anybody in the long run. And I think
Yes,
some
yes.
really, really terrible things happening just now that you can see are just playing out the same playbook.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe you can just come to Canada.
I think that's we're kind of leaning in that direction at the moment because
Mm,
we've got lots of supporters in Canada and I love Canada too, and there's such a strong connection with Scotland as well. But
that's
even
true.
then, like even coming to North America feels like a little bit sketchy at the moment because a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing from the president, so it feels a little bit sketchy, as we'd say in the UK at the
Yeah.
moment.
Uh-huh. And the two of you also have a podcast.
We
Yes.
do. We do. We have what happened was we decided that we wanted to try and get some attention for the campaign because when we set it up, we had an event round about the 8th of March, and we talked about how we would kind of like promote it and get people to understand it. Because if you said, hello, we have the Witches of Scotland campaign and we want to pardon witches, people be like, I'm sorry, what? You know, I mean, we wanted to have an opportunity to explain to them, first of all, to explain to them what the history was, and
Mhm.
then to allow them to think about what it meant to say sorry to somebody in history or to restore their name correctly as people who should never have been convicted of the crime, and how we should remember them. So, when I met Zoe, I said to her that I thought it would be a really good idea if we could try and have a podcast. And Zoe was interested in that because she, as an author and as a chair, chairs lots of meetings and stuff like that. But she didn't want to do a sort of straightforward book review type podcast. So we decided that we would try and do what we thought would be 6 podcasts, because we thought if we do 6 podcasts, say for about half an hour each, 3/4 of an hour, how much more about, witchcraft in Scotland could there possibly be? How much more could we know? It turns out that we were wildly underestimating how much we could know, and we are 80 podcasts in at the moment,
Wow. Yeah.
and we're continuing. We would have done more, but because of the book and because of the tartan, um, the speed at which we've been able to record has just been slowed down, but there is still so many people we want to talk to and so many different directions that we want to look at the history of women and what it
Mm.
means to be a woman now.
Ah, yes. Um, and who were some of the women who were accused of being witches?
Well, one that always sticks out in my mind, and Claire and I talk about this in the book, and it's fascinating for various reasons, is a woman called Lilias Eady, who lived in Fife, which is the area that I live in Scotland, down in Torryburn and Couros area that people might be familiar with if they watch Outlander, because some of the backdrops there are
Oh,
astounding. So it's
yeah.
very, very atmospheric. But it's a long story, but I'll say briefly. Lilias was an older woman who lived on her own without the protection of a husband. You know, she was on her own. And she was accused some years previously, and it didn't come to anything, and then she was accused again. And when she was accused this time, she was held in custody, was questioned, and we know at that point that although they weren't supposed to do physical tortures, one of the things that they did was kept people awake until they broke, essentially. They used sleep deprivation, which is what we presume happened with Lilias, because she confessed. But before they could execute her, she died in custody, which left them with a bit of a problem, which was what do we do with her body now? Because they couldn't do the normal thing, which was to burn the body once she'd been hanged, because that was the law. So what they did was they took her body and they buried her on the shoreline just off the coast of Fife. And the reason that they did that was because there was an idea that if a person had been taken over by the devil, that they could rise again upon death, kind of like a sort of an early version of a zombie, perhaps, and still keep working for the devil. Because something that helped them to dehumanize the accused was the devil took you over. You weren't really a human anymore. You were a body that was being used, a kind of a puppet for the devil. And this is what they thought of Lilias. So they took Lilias and they buried her body off the coast of Fife, put a massive big stone plinth on top of it to keep her in. Off the wall is because of a Scottish folklore tradition, which is that the devil can't cross running water. So you might know, do you know the poem Tam O'Shanter by Robbie Burns? So in that poem, when the devil and the witches are running after Tam, he goes onto a bridge on his horse Meg, and Cutty Sark, who's the lead witch that's chasing him, she grabs Meg's tail and she can't go any further, and she pulls Meg's tail off as the horse gets over the bridge, and Tam makes his escape. So that's something that's been around in Scotland for a very long time. way before Burns. And so they buried her in the water there. And you can, if you go down there, you can still see where the stone is. And unfortunately, she's not complete in there. I mean, ultimately, we'd like to see her get a Christian burial because people were Christians then. And it's very ignominious that she's buried out there. But basically, tomb raiders, grave robbers, went into her grave in the Victoria, took her skull and a lot of bones, the wood from the coffin as well, which ended up getting made into walking sticks that were presented to Andrew Carnegie because he was from that area originally. It's all quite a strange story. And her skull was photographed in the early stages of photography at the University of St Andrews. So, because these photographs exist of both her skull and of her leg bones, much closer to our time, like sort of 10 years ago at the University of Dundee, they were able to do a reconstruction of what Lilius's face looked like and an idea of how tall Lilius was. So Lilius is quite tall for a person, any person of that age, never mind a woman in those days. She's quite a tall lady. And if we've got in the book, and it's available online as well, images of what her face might have looked like. And I think that's one of the reasons why Lilia's story stays with me, not just because it's local to me or because it's just, another horrendous story of an abuse of power, but because we have an idea of there we go, of what
Ah,
Lilias
yes.
looked like, which is just an elderly lady, an older
Yeah,
lady
yeah.
who people saw fit to bring in and imprison under terrible circumstances. And then when she was dead, not even to give her the respect of a Christian burial. And that really brought it home to us that these were just people, largely women, just often older women, people that maybe didn't have much help and much sort of powerful protection, maybe didn't have much money. And it made it very clear to us just how appalling this miscarriage of human rights was.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, the idea of the devil being able to kind of inhabit people is still kind of going on even today, I think.
Yeah, I mean there are various places in the world where women are still, and some men are being accused of being witches, and it's this idea that they are essentially sort of a puppet for the devil, that the devil is working through them, and it's kind of shocking to us that that still exists. But I mean, of course, we've heard accusations in America of pastors saying that women are working for the devil. We saw that Kamala Harris was accused of being a witch.
Mhm.
We saw the special reporter to the UN, Francesca Albanese, being accused of being a witch. That language is still available. Particularly as
Mhm.
women get older, particularly if they don't fit the norms of being a married mother with a husband and children. Then I think that you're ripe for an accusation along those lines because you're not
Yeah.
useful. I mean, I don't think useful. I think
As-
societally you're not useful as being a kind of a breeder. You're not caring for a family. Well, what are you doing then? You must be up to no good. And I think that is the ongoing idea that's there. You're not performing being a woman properly.
Yeah, yeah. And women have to be within a certain role, um, and not get old either.
Yeah. Or at least be seen to be fighting against getting old.
Ah,
Trying your damnedest to not be old.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one of the nice things, and you introduced us at the start, Gail, and described us as we like to be known as Quarrelsome Dames.
Yeah.
We can kind of explain that, because it's one of the things that I like about getting old myself, which is that during the witchcraft trials, if you were accused of witchcraft, one of the first tests they would carry out is they would try and ascertain whether or not in your community you were a quarrelsome dame. Now, that just meant, did you fight with people at the market? Were you fighting with your neighbours? Were you basically not following stereotypical um, societal gender norms of the time? Were you raising your head above the parapet? Were you causing a fuss? Were you a drinker in your local parish or whatever? Anything that caused a fuss. And Zoe always points out that you can't win with being asked at trial whether or not you're a quarrelsome dame, because if you say no, they say, Well, we think you are, and that's you proving that you're quarrelsome already. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we decided to repurpose the term quarrelsome dame and use it as something that we should be proud of. Women should be
Yes.
proud of using their own voice and standing up for themselves. And it's one reason, just to give people an insight into Zoe and I's conversation. It's one reason in conversation Zoe and I have tried not to, when we're discussing things, is use the term Karen, because we believe that that's a new shorthand term for shutting women of a certain age
Yeah.
down.
Hmm.
She's a Karen, she's a complainer. I spoke to someone actually really recently this weekend. I don't think you spoke to her, Zoe, and she said, "You've no idea how difficult it is being called Karen when you're a middle-aged woman now."
I
And
think
we
there is a
so
better way of explaining what that type of person is. I think that there is one thing that men who don't like our campaign like to say to us is, oh, women were just as bad at about dobbing in other women. Women were part of this. And we're always like, yes, because the structural problem that we're all facing is patriarchy. And
Yes.
women enforce patriarchy, either because
Hmm.
they're scared or because they sense there's a power. And we can see with all these MAGA women just now
Oh,
that they are
yes.
they are seeing the seat of power is there. So they're
Hmm.
currying favor, emulating what they want them to be, or like subscribing to very old-fashioned ideas of what a woman is, like trad wives and that sort of thing. So the
Hmm.
kind of women that do oftentimes very racist things, like I remember horrifyingly the story about the women in Central Park that reported to the police the
oh
poor guy that was
yes,
just bird
the
watching.
uh,
I think
Yes.
she's a really good example of a Karen, and the idea about white women weaponizing tears and that sort of thing. That's under the Karen umbrella. But I think instead of calling them Karens, I'd rather another phrase which a woman introduced me to, which is patriarchy patrollers. I
Ah,
prefer
yes.
that. I
Hmm.
think that it's much clearer about what it is that they're doing. And it doesn't have to be a woman, but these are women that are collaborators, either, and they know fine well what they're doing, or they're not questioning what they're doing. But I
Yeah.
think we're at a stage in society just now in 2026 where we really need to be thinking about precision with language and about being very vocal about saying, right, this is not acceptable, this behavior. And I
Hmm.
see that rising more and more, but I think the time to be politely just saying, oh, it's got nothing to do with me, or it doesn't bother me particularly, I'm not political, those times have gone. Like, we really need to be standing up and saying, no, no more now.
Yeah, yeah. I think
here, here.
another term I've heard is foot soldiers for the patriarchy.
Yeah, yeah.
Same idea.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like in The Handmaid's Tale. I know that's used a lot now, but the idea of the ants in The Handmaid's Tale, if you're familiar with that, they're the ones that reinforce how women should be split up and how they should
Oh,
be behaving and so on.
see, when you
Yeah.
said ants, I was thinking, I, I was thinking, I
Aunts.
was like, I don't remember insects.
You're Scottish. Don't you start
I
having a go
know.
at my
Oh,
Scottish accent
oh,
now.
it's because I'm down in
We
London,
We get a
darling.
lot. We get a lot, Gail, on our book reviews, where unfortunately it's American audiences sometimes can't understand our accents and complain about them. And Claire and I have got very clear, well spoken, so to say, Scottish accents. We're not broad speakers, so we're always kind of like, you can't understand us. Crumbs. You need to come over here and really speak to proper Scots speakers.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been to Scotland, but I
Have you
can
not?
understand you. No, I haven't. I would love to, actually.
Are you where is your accent from? Because you don't sound North
I
American.
grew up in London, in South London.
Oh,
Right, okay.
nice.
Um, and of course, we never went anywhere, you know.
No, well, you've
We
got everything
stayed
you need in London.
put. Yeah.
Why would you? Yeah, I
Yeah.
love London. I've been down there. Claire's working down there quite a lot, and we've been down doing work together, and I enjoy it so much. It's such a great place. And
Yeah.
that it really annoys me when you see these things on social media saying that London is now really dangerous and that it's Sharia law and that women aren't safe. It's absolute baloney. It's just multicultural. I love it there. It's so exciting. Such an
Yeah.
exciting place to be.
Is for two quarrelsome dames.
Yes.
Yes. I think we need more quarrelsome dames.
You do,
Yeah,
Gail.
yeah,
Would you
yeah,
consider yourself a quarrelsome dame, Gail?
I think I need to become more quarrelsome, I'm working on it.
yeah,
Good. Well, we
yeah,
all are. I mean,
Yes.
Zoe and I are all very well. I can quarrel all day long in my work job, and
mm,
Zoe and I can have imaginary quarrels with people where we go, and we could have just said and stuff like that. But we're just the same as everyone
I
else,
mean, we're socially bound. We've been
Yeah,
socialized our entire lives to keep the peace and to be nice and to be sweet and to be helpful. But I
yeah,
do think that's one of the freeing things of hitting 50 is you kind of start to be a bit more like, hang on a minute. I don't have
yeah,
time for this. I'm on the downward slope now. I'm not
yeah.
messing
Oh,
around.
don't say that, Zoe.
Yes,
I'm not on a downward slope.
I
I've
just mean
got,
at that midlife kind of point, like where,
yeah,
okay, probably half is done now if I'm lucky. I don't
yeah,
have time to waste, you know?
there,
yeah, yeah.
there is definitely a lot of, I see it as just a continual, not slope, I just see it as a continual line up the way.
Ah, yes. A
Yeah.
line up to
I'm gonna
casting
need a
aside
chairlift.
all those things that have been put on us and that we were
Yeah,
supposed to be.
exactly. Exactly. Caring less by the day, I think,
Yes,
or
yeah,
at
yeah,
least narrowing down the things that you care about so you use your energy for the stuff that actually matters, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Could I say caring less by the day sounds like an absolutely fabulous tagline, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
it
start
is a
using that,
great
Claire.
tagline. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to remember that.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about that you think is important?
I think one thing that I would say is that, and this is the, I'm going to sound like I'm banging on here a little bit, but I think that we need to remember to find ways to be sticking together more now rather than fracturing off into different groups. I think that we, the good people, we, the adults, really need to pull together. And you can see that happening in some places, but we really need to pull together and we really need to have our wits about us to see how many people are being manipulated in society, but
Mm.
also to understand that the majority of people aren't bad people, they're good people. And we need to get together and really look after people that are vulnerable. That's, I'm going to keep wanging on about that. I do care
Yeah,
about that. Yeah,
yeah.
Crohn's United.
Yes, indeed. And I think that by being united, we lift everybody and we
exactly.
lift ourselves. And
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that we all have to be the same.
So,
None of us have to lose our own distinct cultures, as long as it's
Mhm.
not like a Nazi culture that can get lost. But
Yes.
if, we can all hold on to our own cultures and take and blend and like, learn about each other. Like, my God, it's 2026 and we're still like not learning that you get on better in life and you have a happier life if we all just try and work together. I can't
Yeah.
understand why nobody's looking at history and going, oh, I feel like the First and Second World Wars didn't turn out that great for people. So like let's try and be, less war, more peace,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And yeah, it looks as if history is repeating itself and
Oh my
people really
God. And
haven't
that
learned.
no, and that's our big thing with our book is, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And
Yeah.
the thing is, I think that there's active repetition of history from from the rich because they know that in war they make more money and they
Ah.
know that if we divide people, they make more money and that they
Hmm.
have more power. So I just think fuck them. I've had enough. I read
Yeah.
today about one of the reasons that Greenland is such an area of interest to the American president and the tech bros is because there's an idea amongst these tech guys that they want to create this kind of bizarre Nordic sort of
Ah.
Aryan sort of CEO where they're tech kings, where they
Mm.
run a separate thing that doesn't follow the same rules of society. Whether that's true or not, I could believe it is true, but I
I
think
can
that
believe
there's
it.
an idea about
well,
that. It's
here's
horrifying.
here's the trouble with the modern day is if you say almost literally anything, people are like, "Now I could believe that." The
Yeah,
fact is that we are so far removed from the reality that used to tether us to things. You know,
yeah,
Hmm.
craziest things on TV about like life now, and you're like, "Yeah, that's probably right." I
Yeah.
feel like. I feel like conspiracy theories aren't possible anymore because everything's so mad.
The earth isn't flat though, Claire. The earth isn't.
No, I'm still with us on that. I still
Yeah,
believe that the globe.
good. Glad to
Thank you,
hear it.
everyone. I'm not going to be a quarrelsome dame with that about anybody.
Good, 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 good.
Ah, well, I think we're running out of time here, so I'd like to thank you, Claire and Zoe, and it was really nice to talk to you. And I really hope you do come to Canada.
We
We
are
definitely want to come to Canada. Where are
definitely
you
doing.
based just now?
Well, I tend to move around a lot. I do go to Vancouver sometimes, Calgary sometimes. Often I'm in the interior of BC near Nelson, which is a great place and has great bookstores and
Oh,
should
okay.
visit.
We're
We'll
very,
take that
very keen
note,
to come
Gail.
to Canada. We get asked all the time to come out to Canada, so we'd
Yeah.
absolutely love to. We'd love to, love to. I've been twice. We looked at emigrating to Canada years and years ago, and we went to Toronto, and then the next year we went to Vancouver. But I had terrible morning sickness in Vancouver, and I'd like to go back
Oh,
not pregnant. So that would be exciting.
yeah.
I think we can almost guarantee that
Oh, I
then,
will not
Zoe.
be pregnant. That's the end of that. No, no, that's no more babies. That's the end of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Well, thank you so much for
no,
talking to
thank
me.
you.
It was
Gail,
great
thank you. We
fun.
really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get to see you when we come to Canada.
That'd be
Yes,
great. We'll keep
that
in
would be
touch.
lovely. Yes. Thank you for listening. It was really great to talk to Zoe and Claire. And like the video, send it to your friends and people you know, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Bye.